right. Is it good? Is it good? I think
Yeah,
we're going.
it's
Yeah.
recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we are with another episode of the Day After podcast, guys.
How's it going? We got a whole new setup and everything,
Yeah.
After we did our All Stars 2 Electric Boogaloo,
Mm-hmm.
we decided, when some other factors we can't say just yet, we decided to revamp, give it a new channel direction. And so far, we're liking what we've accomplished. Joe has a new setup. I
Yeah.
got better Wi-Fi.
I have the outdoors here. I got some trees behind me.
Yeah, yeah. I believe you guys can hear me much better now.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can't tell, I have a microphone right in front of my face.
So we're getting more a fish. We're getting more a fish,
Yes. Yes. It's
which is
it's it's
always nice.
about time. We've been doing this for a little bit now.
Almost a year.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
I know. So, let's just do a little celebration.
Yeah, clap, clap, clap.
Yeah. So I guess since this is our 1 year celebration, just off the fly, we are going to tell you guys how to win Survivor.
hmm This is the guideline from two people who have never played Survivor before,
But
but
we watched it.
but we have watched it. We have watched 40 seasons, many of the seasons multiple times.
And we've played in simulators, so we know
Mhm.
what we're talking about.
It's obvious. It's textbook.
Exactly. I had a
Yeah.
dream once. I was on Survivor. I met Jeff Probe. It was like totally chill.
Yeah, I
Um,
have those about every other night.
yeah. So basically, what we did was we took every single winner from their respective season, and we were like, all right, so we split it up into three different categories. We have their moral compass. Were they a hero? Were they a villain? Were they neutral? Were they an anti-hero? We have their position in the tribe. Did they mostly play as a leader throughout it with their alliance near the end? Or were they an underdog that just made it to the final tribal and was able to plead their case and like, hey, I survived all this? Were they a follower? Amber. Or were they just straight up unaffiliated with anyone and they just kind of like coasted through the game? They had no like real alliances. They were like, oh, I'll be with you, but I'm not putting a label on it. And then finally, we have the gameplay. Now, for that, we have the Idol Beast. Well, there's only really one person. We have like, was their social game the best? Their strategy? Were they best all around? Or were they just, tanking it throughout as a challenge beast? And we tallied everything up and we put them together. And based on like the numbers we came up with, we decided what's the best way to win Survivor. Now, there are many factors that go into it. There's a luck factor, tribe swaps. Who knows? Every season it's different.
Yeah.
However, by the numbers, by its core, what does it take to win this game? And I think we found out something.
Yeah, and just because maybe you don't necessarily fit the ideal winner of Survivor, that doesn't mean that you should be going out there and trying to play like that ideal Survivor. You should try to look at one of the ones just below it and statistically and try to maybe use that as your game if you think that fits you better.
Yeah. Or if you're a combination of all three different categories at number one, get your butt out there, make your tape.
Yeah,
Exactly. Which, I need to make mine. So
yeah, same.
am I this? So we'll see. All right. So first up, we are going to discuss moral compass, and that basically means how did they play? Were they a hero? Were they a villain? Were they just kind of like Switzerland throughout it all? Or were they an anti-hero? Those are our four categories that I thought best like describe someone's moral compass throughout this. And so at the bottom, we have anti-hero.
Mm-hmm.
Now, anti-hero, it's kind of like a vague thing because even we talked about before we did this video, what defines an anti-hero or what truly defines a hero villain and all of that. And I feel like an anti-hero is someone who's not afraid to get their hands dirty, but is also more often not on the moral upright.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, when I went through, I really didn't find anyone that I considered more of an anti-hero than either a hero or a villain. I felt like they would be like, yeah, that's definitely closer to a hero, or that's closer to a villain. I didn't really see anyone that was really in that moral gray. And I could see why you might think people are an anti-hero.
Yeah.
But for my list that I compiled, I personally felt like they were more hero or villain.
Yeah, I feel it's not always. I mean, it also comes to perception of it and personal preference.
Mhm.
I mean, that's part of the reason it's low on this list, because when we have an editor who's going to be looking at the season, they're going to take like the more obvious things that you're showing. They
Mhm.
have like each episode, it's taking 1 hour of like 2-3 days compiling into one thing.
Mhm.
And so part of the, some notable anti-heroes that I kind of noticed. One was Tyson from Blood versus Water, where he wasn't necessarily playing as a villain. I wouldn't say he was playing as a hero.
Mhm.
I feel like he does have a little bit of a redemption thing when, his loved one was voted off.
Mhm.
And so, like, all right, I'm going to play harder. And he did care about people, but, like,
Mhm.
sometimes his morals were you know, like when Katie got voted off or got rock drawn, it was like, yeah, now you're over there.
Mhm.
Not 100% hero, not 100% villain, not neutral either.
Mhm.
Another one, Christie. I have recently rewatched Vanuatu, and I have a better appreciation for it.
Yeah, you better. You've been talking trash on it for so
That
long.
and Guatemala, I'll admit when I'm wrong. And so Chris D, I feel, is a perfect anti-hero, especially an old school Survivor, where it is a lot more cut and dry. Because yeah, he had like the heroic underdog thing going for him,
Mhm.
but however, he lied through the game. The Eliza, the Jenna, blind sides, those things
Mhm.
kind of you know that affected like didn't necessarily affect their decision, but it hurt. And you saw that in that tribal council where he
Mhm.
was like, I'm sorry, our friendship means more,
Yeah.
but I did it to get here. um
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just editing too. Because I feel like even though that sure those not were necessarily bad for the people, it was still kind of shown in a positive light for him. It was still
Yeah.
kind of shown like he's going to do whatever it takes to win. Um, but like these people really had a bond for him for so long in the game, and he had a bond with so many people at that point. Like people have to go. It's either they go or he goes.
Yeah. I mean,
So
it's like, do you blame a lion for eating his gazelle? That's
yeah,
just what you have to do to
yeah,
survive.
yeah.
And I get that. And I feel like that's one thing that is always discussed at tribal council, especially if there's, lying involved or like morally things that are in question. You hear about this line and
Mhm.
you hear things like, and we'll talk more about this definitely when we get to villains, but it's like, what is the line? What is this
Mhm.
line that people talk about? And I feel like people that are heroic but they've crossed that line fall into this category. Now granted,
Mhm.
this is very low on the list, so may not be the best way to make it to the end, because
Yeah,
it might make it harder because,
yeah.
oh, now you kind of look like you're not 100% on either side.
Mhm.
However, it is a way to play. It may not be the best way, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, typically on Survivor, they want to vote for people who they like, and that's why in this next lowest category for moral compass, it really showcases that because we got villains as the next lowest.
Yeah. And I mean, villains, the great thing about them, one, they're entertaining, and two, they're willing to make that decision of like, okay, I'm gonna cut this person. Okay, I'm gonna blindside this person. No, no craps given. Just straight up be like, all right, I'm gonna do this because I can. And we've seen villains throughout the show, but some of them get their comeuppance because they're like, all right, we need to get rid of this guy because he's being a jerk.
Mhm.
And then like at Final Tribal, in Guatemala, in All Stars, if we're talking old school, and Samoa, middle school. Oh God, middle school. Uh, sorry, flashbacks. Um, we see vengeful juries because it's like, oh, you screwed us over, you lied to us,
Yeah.
and that can cost you the game. Like,
Yeah, you definitely have to do jury management if you're a villain. Like that is the biggest thing that a lot of villains just end up saying, I don't need to do it because I'm a villain. But that's not true. You know, we still see villains that can do jury management, like Tony Vlachos, for instance,
yeah,
and specifically is Kagiyan, because he
yes,
screwed over so many people. They all like they came into there almost like
he
wanting to
would
hate.
swear on anything. His mother is,
Eh,
um, it's like he just did not. He would say anything to get what he wanted, and I think that's that moral line
mhm.
that comes into question.
Yeah, but at least with him, he was able to at the end kind of let everyone be at peace with him, which is, you know, that's what villains need at the end of their game, is to be able to make people okay with the fact that they got screwed.
Yeah, and one of it is, we'll get to it, but on the other section. But when gameplay, when it comes into like strategy and socially maneuvering, those things do play in a factor when it comes to like winning over the jury, because like some people, and it's a person thing, sometimes people game recognizes game, or some people, like, I'm going to use Guatemala as an example, judge Sargent
Yeah,
is like, no, you screwed me over, so screw you, you're not getting my vote. And
yeah,
that's how Danny won. um,
yep.
because and I didn't feel, yeah, well, we can talk about Danny later, in fact, not too much later, but um, yeah. And at the end of it, because what it boils down to, it doesn't matter how you get to the end. If you get to the end, it's just getting the votes, and what's important is trying to get the votes,
Mhm,
because you can play a numerous amount of ways, but getting to the end is the goal,
mhm.
and getting the votes is how you win the $1 million. That's, as Jeff puts it, a $900,000 difference,
Yeah,
and being an
exactly.
unlikable person makes it harder for you.
Yeah, but as Abby Maria said, villains have more fun.
They can. All righty. So we've talked about anti-heroes. We've talked about villains. Now for our number 2 spot, we have neutral. Now, I feel neutral has a lot of benefits, because you're not necessarily, forced to be using this moral code,
Mhm,
or you're not necessarily like restricted by like, oh, I have to be upright, I have to be Captain America, or
mhm.
like Golden Boy, or anything
Yeah.
like that. You can play dirty when you have to, and you can still, it gives you a little bit more like freeway, where it's not necessarily like anti-hero where it's more
Mhm.
on the heroic spectrum, but it's more like neutral is neutral. You adopt the best of both worlds.
Yeah, they don't really they're not really a villain, they're not really a hero. Usually a lot of these are like the sleeper threats who you don't
Yeah,
expect to be like this big, like the winner of the season, but then all of a sudden at the end they get the $1 million check and you're like, wait, what?
yeah,
A lot of those are the neutrals, like the
yeah,
Natalie Whites, the Danny Boatwrights, the
yeah.
Ambers.
I mean, and that's one thing we also have to get into, play into account too. And I think that's one thing why Amber won,
Mhm.
was because Boston Rob was playing a very, very villain game, and especially in old school where
Yeah.
things weren't as, like, yeah, all about strategy. It's more like, it definitely was heavily more on the social aspect back then.
Mhm.
But, like, and then it was like, all right, I'm basically making the same moves as him. It's just he's getting all the blood on his hand.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, he didn't, man, like they really just came down to, she was a little more likable than Boston Rob, and that's
yeah.
really what gets her the win.
And like I mentioned earlier, Danny won because Stephanie played such a like brutal game when it came to
Mhm,
like, just like breaking, alliances and stuff when she needed to.
mhm,
And Danny was just like, yeah, I didn't really do any of that.
yeah,
I was on the bottom. I suggested we do this, and that's how
yeah.
I got $1 million.
If they ever do an old school versus new school, I actually really want to see Stephanie play again.
Yes, I agree. Especially since I've just watched Palau and Guatemala recently. It
Mhm.
just like it gets me the feels, and I'm like, all right, so this is why I really enjoyed her, because I enjoyed her when I
Mhm.
watched her then, and then I'm like, will I still feel the same way? And I'm like, yes. And she
Yeah.
does have this competitive mindset, which I
Yeah.
really appreciate.
She also has, I think, like one of the most interesting arcs in the show. So like she starts off as
Yeah.
that heroic underdog who's really having to persevere and make her way through in Palau, and then she
Mhm.
goes over to Guatemala and becomes this villainess who's basically masterminding everyone's elimination.
She has to get more aggressive, and she'll say
Yeah,
it too.
yeah.
And I mean, I didn't feel like it was something of like, oh, Mal, it's just sometimes that's what you have to do to get to the end. And that's what she did. It's
Yeah.
just, there are different ways that you can
Yeah.
go about
And
it.
she lost so many challenges in every season she's been on. She loses like every challenge, including heroes versus villains.
Well, I mean, she's not on there for long,
Yeah, but
unfortunately.
she's on there for enough for 2 immunity challenges and I mean, I guess they win reward,
That's
right?
what James
Yeah.
said. That James,
Yeah.
she got her whole tribe eliminated. Why do we keep her on?
Yeah. She's a
So
plague. She's literally a plague.
exactly.
And it's not even her
Well, I
fault.
don't
Like
think she's a
she
plague.
it's not her fault. It's that I think she has the survivor curse now. That whatever tribe she would go on, like it's just gonna be bad because she's physical. It's like she's one of the physical females out there, but
Yeah,
she just can never win.
it's just there's always something. There's always
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But some other good neutrals, because it's not always like goats or like followers, stuff like that.
Mhm,
It's also people like the Sepia, I think, was very neutral without,
mhm,
like she kind of played it cool and was like, okay, I'm not necessarily being, like the one that's like up and out and doing stuff or like making decisions
mhm,
based on like a moral compass,
mhm.
but it was more so on like, all right, so this is what I have to do to get to the end. It's not being sneaky, it's not being this, it's
Mhm.
just the smart strategic move. And I feel like a lot of
Yeah,
more strategic players have this like neutral thing about
yeah.
them.
I put Natalie Anderson as a neutral strategic because
I did as well.
yeah, even though like at the end, like you're kind of rooting for her because there's not a lot of likable people in the end game there of San Juan del Sur, um, but she's still like a villain. Like she's still kind of talks down to
Yeah.
people and thinks that she's kind of all of that,
Well,
which
I
is
mean,
still kind of
it
that villain mindset.
yeah, but at the same time, it's not like she's the villain of that season doing things.
Exactly.
It's like, and I think she's a great example of this, where it's a thing of, like you were saying, it was like she kind of decided, I was like, wait, I'm the swing vote. I
Yeah.
have all the power here.
Yeah.
And and I think that's one little thing that the like neutral area can give you a little leeway, is
Yeah.
because
They're able to honestly play both sides usually pretty well. Like they usually have the ability to go to the other side too because there's no huge like a loyalty or anything like that.
yeah, and like you have to adapt to your circumstances, and you see that throughout different survival when the tribes swap, and some people who are very adamant about keeping it strong
Mhm.
sometimes don't make it to the end, because they're so like focused on, oh, it was this, so when we get back it's going to be like this, or oh, I'm sticking to them because they were on my original tribe, I don't know these.
Mhm.
I believe Darwin said something about adaptation being the key to survival or evolution.
Mhm.
So I think that's part of the reason why. And despite that, our number one pick is still heroes.
Yeah, it's the most likable people end up winning.
Exactly.
Like most of the time they're going to award it to the likable person over the person who maybe played a better strategic game, but if they feel hurt by that person personally, then they're more likely not going to vote. It's like it might still happen. Like it
Yeah,
still
yeah,
happens, but it's like we're talking about statistically how to play Survivor, and these are
yes,
the statistics.
exactly. It's like, because at the end of the day, it's about getting the votes at the end.
Hmm.
Throughout the journey, you can play however, when it comes to the end game, it's like, all right, how did I play to get these votes? Because the votes is the most important part. And like, if I'm like, Joe, I don't like your T-shirt, your microphone, and it's better than my water bottle, so I don't like you. Spit out. Now is extreme example, but Joe, do you feel like giving me $1 million now?
Heck no, techno.
Exactly. Uh, so, and it can be hard because fighting against the moral compass, but I think that's what makes it so admirable when you do get to the end being a hero, is because it's like, look, I didn't waver. Yeah, I made some tough decisions, but I was sticking to my word. I'm trying to be a good guy. Having that hero narrative, you don't necessarily even have to be the best guy or the nicest guy, but having the hero narrative is so important, because perception is everything. And if you come off as the hero of the story, it's more likely they're going to be like, you know what? Yeah, he deserved it, because not only did he play, a very good game, he won a lot of challenges. Like if we take Tom, for example, from Palau, if we look at him, he was like, yeah, yes, sometimes he blindsided a little bit and stuff like that. But, he won a lot of challenges. He was a big leader. He did all this stuff for us.
Yeah.
And so,
but there's no way that he was not going to be a hero on that season. Because he's a firefighter. The season happened, what was it, like post 9/11? Like at that point, we're still kind of in the morning of 9/11. Like, of course, someone like a firefighter that goes out there with a Boston accent, like obviously they're going to be
definitely
they're going to be big. Like they're going to
precisely. And if we look at more new school, at a more recent fireman, Jeremy.
Exactly.
He, especially in Second Chance, he played. I swear, if he was any more of a hero during that season, there would be a halo over his head. Like he had all the aspects, all the likability factors. He never. I mean, at the very end, he used the child thing, he was expecting.
Yeah.
But to hold that because he knew,
he needed it for the end game. Like he couldn't reveal that early, because otherwise, he becomes that big threat.
Exactly. And so,
and he has kind of those villainous moments, like calling people meat shields and saying, I want them to be used as a meat shield. Like that's not something that a hero back in Tom's time would be saying.
No, and there's definitely more gray area when it comes to a hero, but overall, no one would say he was ever vicious.
Exactly.
And I mean, with the meat shield thing, that's a strategy that everyone uses. He just put a name towards it. Does it sound a bit? It does sound a little villainy, but at the same time, it's a known strategy to help. You get further in the game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing with Survivor. It's hard to really find a pure hero or a pure villain. It's still going to because you have to vote people out at the end of the day, and just that alone is something that's costing someone $1 million.
Exactly. And sometimes it's how you vote someone out, whether it's a blindside, whether it's whether you pitch for this person to stay, all that stuff. It plays in a factor of is this person, and this is the thing that makes you question morals, especially in modern in Survivor, where everything is kind of a moral, or not everything. There's so much deception, or oh, does this person have idol, and that, and there's a lot of head games, and that can get to you. The stress can get to you in modern Survivor, because it's a lot more complicated now. But he still kept that heroic.
Yes. Okay, let's move on to the next category, because we got about 30 minutes left.
Alrighty. So now we're going to talk about the position in the tribe. Now, when we go through the game, you never know where you might be. You might be a very good leader, but you might be on the very bottom of the lines because, no one wants to follow you, and you're but like in your everyday life, oh,
Mhm.
you run your own business, and it's like, what? You might be like a follower and get all the way to the end, where someone makes all the moves and you're just trying to get to the end because that's important, because that's where the big money is. You could just be an underdog doing everything you can to try and get there, having to fight day and night trying to get there, whether it's finding idols, whether it's winning challenges, or pulling crazy strategic, like, oh, blind sides.
Mhm.
And then there's being unaffiliated. Is this person just along for the ride? And like I said, they're more casual about it. They don't want to put labels on anything.
Mhm.
It's more voting blocky, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. So let's get into the first one then, which is unaffiliated.
Yes. I feel it's something where, because you do see people, like if we take Sandra, especially in her first
Mhm.
season, she's very like, as long as it's not me. She had
Mhm.
alliances,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like, well, I mean, one, at a certain point, they weren't there anymore, like in
Mhm.
Final Five. And then, she kind of like had to like go her way through there. But
Mhm.
it's like, it's like, you're not necessarily, you're kind of like fluid when it comes to how you vote and stuff like that, whether it's not adhering to tribal alliances, or like you're just like a swing vote. And I feel like that is a strong way to get to the end, because you burn less bridges that way. However,
Mhm.
you don't always make as strong bonds to make it to the end.
Yeah, I feel like even when people might not have alliances at the end game, that they had those alliances for such a long period of the game. Like Sandra had a huge alliance that dominated the game for almost the
Yeah.
entire season, and then ends up when Rupert goes home. Then she scrambles a little bit, gets kind of a little more footing, and then it falls again when I forgot who the blonde haired's name is. Uh,
Christy.
yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I really feel like it's not.
We're just gonna go with Christy.
Yeah, but yeah, once she goes home, that's when Sandra kind of is, up Shit's Creek. But even then, like she's still able to get in with people. Like she doesn't just say, "Okay, I'm just not going to talk to these people."
Yeah.
She's
And I
still,
mean, like, yes, that is true. And I feel like there's also like a thing of like, when it comes to the end, it's like not putting a label on it, or like being fluid with your alliances to get to the end, where it's like, oh, this week I'm with Rob and Amber. Oh, this week I'm going to be with Johnny Fairplay and Higgins. I
Mhm.
don't think there's been a Higgins in Survivor.
Yeah.
This is a future season. But it's like, having that like fluidity.
Mhm.
um it's not always the best,
Yeah.
because yeah, you can have those like bonds, because I
Mhm.
feel like there are some people that have done it, but there isn't like a whole lot of them, because it's very, very like
Yeah.
wishy-washy.
Yeah, yeah. I ended up putting her as an underdog just because I do think that if you made it to like the end game with alliance and everything, and then you kind of get screwed, but then you still end up getting to the end and winning, like that shouldn't happen. Like that doesn't usually happen. So
Yeah,
that's still that kind of underdog mentality is in there.
yeah, but I feel like, and we'll talk about underdog in a little bit,
Hmm.
but that's why I feel there is a slight difference, because uh, there are definitely similarities. It's kind of like the same similarities with anti-hero and hero and neutral, and how it kind of
Hmm.
like fits into all of that. I
Yeah,
feel
it's a moral
unaffiliated.
gray. It's
It's
still we're
like a
still
gray.
in that. Yeah.
It's a very, very gray thing. It's
Yeah.
but let's get some color, lack of color, because that's what black is.
Hmm.
So now we have the followers as the next big thing.
Hmm.
Now, this is number 3 on the list, because one, usually followers, it's either they had someone that was kind of like, they had someone that was like bigger, getting their hands a bit more bloody,
Hmm.
and kind of, or maybe they're more like a meat shield, more like a
Mhm.
strategic meat shield where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, they're making all the crappy moves, or oh, they're
Yeah.
seeming like the leader
Yeah.
that's making all these decisions, but it's
I
actually
I
me.
put my biggest strategic follower was Sophie Clark in South
Yes,
Pacific because she did that strategically, was to let coach soak up all the attention, so that way at
Mhm.
the end, everyone's so focused on everything coach did that, if they're not happy with his performance of Follow Travel, she pretty much wins by default.
Exactly. And same thing with Amber. Amber was, definitely following Rob's footsteps. Like they agreed on stuff, but it was, Rob that was calling a lot of the shots, and like, just pretty much having gloves of blood by the
Yeah.
end of it, giving Amber the opportunity to be like, hey, he did all that stuff. So if you don't like him, vote for me. Um, which is another, because like getting votes is the more important thing. And so sometimes, and we'll see it in a jury, because people are going to vote however they're going to vote.
Mhm.
Someone might be spiteful, and even if you get a vote your way, even if we're talking about a final three instead of a final two, it's an extra vote that might get you, second place and be
Mhm.
the first runner up, as opposed to like, the third place, which you'll get more money that way.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, we want the million. This video is about getting
Yes.
the million, but
Mhm.
if
A
you
100 grand is not bad.
fuck, I delete some loans. I would nail
Yeah.
snap some loans.
Yeah.
I
Like,
get a car.
yeah, I mean that's definitely one of those things, is like, if I go out there, I'm gonna have to think, do I want to try to get as far as I can, or do I want to play to win? Because some people go out there for either or. Some people go out there with just the intention of getting to the end and not winning.
I
And then you
mean,
have the people who are willing to, go out early but have that potential to win.
I think, and that's one thing we see with Boston Rob: high risk, high reward.
Hmm.
And that's how a lot of people play, especially people that are very relentless.
Hmm.
They're like, hey, I'm loud, I'm going to do my thing. If you don't like it, get out of my way, or try and do something about it.
Hmm.
Now, in Survivor,
Yeah.
being relentless isn't always the best thing. It
Yeah.
definitely helps,
Yeah, Boston
but
Rob, if he's never, I don't think he's ever coming back again. But if he
unfortunately,
did, he definitely can't play how he played at Winners at War.
no,
Like
no.
that was definitely the worst Boston Rob game out of all of his games, was Winners at War. And it's
Yeah,
because we've seen it, we've seen his game so many times, and he had refused to change it every time.
yeah. And but I mean, it's one of the things where it honestly depends on the jury, and it
Hmm.
honestly depends on the people around you, because of his, being one of the loudest guys in the room. That's, like the difference between him and Sean, of
Yeah.
like, it was a toss up between the two, and they were like, all right, Rob, he's also a strategic threat, so he's probably more likely to screw things over in the end, so we got to get rid of him now.
Hmm.
And and I feel like that's something where once, like, being that follower, it's a safer route, and it might win you the million, but it's very lower chances than the other two options that are ahead.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So since this video is about how to win the $1 million, we don't
Yeah,
recommend being a follower on Survivor.
go big
Um,
or go home.
exactly. If you want a better chance, then why don't you become an underdog? That's our number two.
Yeah. um Underdogs, just from an aspect, they have a great story element to them,
Hmm.
where it's like, um, oh, despite all of this, despite all the things that were thrown my way, I made it to the end. And that
Yeah.
just kind of like complements their gameplay, where it's like, you know what? You're right. Yeah, he wasn't dealt the best hands, but
Hmm.
because he got, found these challenges, or like if we take Mike Holloway,
Hmm.
where especially when he started getting targeted, he had to like win these challenges. He had to like do whatever he could,
Yeah.
and like he was kind of like in the bottom, because if he didn't win, he was going home.
Yeah,
Um,
this is really good, like, resume building. That's what underdogs do best, is that if they, like, they are in a position that's going to be really hard for them to get to the end. But if they're able to do it, they have one of the best shots at winning the game at that point.
Yeah, another great example is Chris Underwood, the
Hmm.
first Survivor contestant who got voted off and won in the same season.
Hmm.
You know, before that, it's never been done before because it's so
Yeah, he
challenging.
and you know he came back in and he played his ass off for those last
He
few days. Like, sure,
his
it was
like
only a few days, but you know he
he
did play
owned it.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah, having a great end game just helps you out a lot.
Yeah, and
And then
I think he's really set the standard now that if Edge of Extinction returns and they come back in with that final six, they have to win final immunity and put themselves in the fighter making challenge. I don't think that a returnee can win if they don't do that now. Because
I,
otherwise it's like why didn't you do that? You could have
it,
taken out the biggest threat.
it might get you extra votes. It could
Yeah.
be a thing. I mean, who is to truly say? But for like someone like Chris, where having that underdog thing and that whole go big or go home deal, it just
Yeah. I mean,
increases your resume.
you really have nothing to lose because at that point you put yourself in fire. If you lose, you still get fourth place. That's better than whatever position you had before, like by
Yes,
a lot. Um,
yes.
and then if you win, you pretty much like have the biggest case of winning the game at that point.
Hmm. And we'll talk about Chris Underwood also when it comes to gameplay because he is a prime example, and we've talked about it on the channel before.
Mm.
But and also underdogs, because yeah, we're mostly talking about winning the game.
Hmm.
Another thing that helps you win the game is playing multiple times,
Hmm.
and being an underdog makes you more memorable and makes people like you more. And
Hmm.
so you're more likely to be brought back if you're an underdog than you are a
Yeah.
follower, because a
Hmm.
follower can, like the spotlight isn't really on them as much. If you're an underdog, or by, process of elimination, a leader,
Yeah.
you're going to be remembered more. And
Yeah.
so you'll have more options to play again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, let's look at Cochran, for instance. His first season in South Pacific, he was the ultimate underdog. Like, he was on the
Exactly.
bottom from like day one and constantly like on the verge of going home. Makes it to the merge, flips on his alliance, and then he rides that
Booted,
out, booted seventh, and then comes
gets
back.
taken.
But in that season becomes the leader of Caramoan and
Mhm.
and is leading every decision.
Exactly. And it's because and it's about getting to the end, or at least leaving a good impression.
Yeah, and
Because
he wouldn't come back if he wasn't underdog. If he gets booted off in those first three votes where he should like I thought he was going home.
yeah,
He
I was
doesn't come
nervous.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, I was nervous. But and that's the thing. It's like that high risk, high reward. And I feel like being a leader, which is the number one spot, is also that high risk, high reward. Because usually when you
Mm,
get to the merge, you have head honchos of two alliances. Very rarely do we get like three alliances, because usually the third, what am I doing with my hands? Usually the third is the swing vote. And, it's like, it's usually one big leader versus another big leader. We saw that in San Juan del Sur, where, again, I'm forgetting his name, but, it was him or Jeremy.
Jeremy. And then oh man, now I'm blanking on it as well.
I remember, I
Reed,
remember
was it
Reed.
Reed? Yeah, I know it
No,
wasn't Reed.
it's
It was
Reed's.
Josh. It was Josh. That's his
Yes,
name.
yes.
Yes.
And,
We know
and it's
Survivor.
like, it's, and it's one of those things where it's like leaders, it's usually, yeah, you have this thing where you're able to either go far in the game, or there comes a time where a leader needs to be dethroned, because
Hmm.
tribal alliances at the beginning do play a factor. And then also alliances in general, if someone's calling all the shots, the biggest target's going to be on you. And it's about increasing that high risk, high reward, because if you are a leader, or there is a way to be a sleeper threat and still be a leader.
Hmm.
But like if you're the main guy who's pulling all the shots and people
Yeah.
are realizing it, or they come to think, you know what, he's been orchestrating that, there's a target on your back. But
Mhm.
when you make it to the end as a leader, as we've seen time and time again,
Yeah.
it really helps your case because almost like an underdog, you have
Mhm.
these big odds that are against you.
Mhm. Yeah, I know that he didn't necessarily win, but Dominic Abate was a great leader from day one and kind of really controlled the game. And really, it's he ties with Wendell, who ends up winning the game. Really only
Yeah,
loses because its final three person was Laurel.
yeah,
And Laurel was obviously going to vote for Wendell.
yeah, and that's another thing too. I mean, it is a thing of like when you make it to the end, it really impresses people,
Hmm.
but it also shows because if you're a leader, you're telling people how to play.
Yeah.
And also, if someone in your alliance goes out, it's like if you're going for the guy that brought you so far, like if we look at like not almost said Russell, Boston Rob, where it's
Oh,
like, hey,
Russell's not going to like that.
sorry, if we brought you all this way, and then like it's like okay, we've gone as far as we can. It's like yeah, you have to do some blind sides, but for Boston Rob season where he won, it's like we get it. You took me further in the game, and
Mhm.
you kept that thing. Yule is another great example where it's like
Mhm.
okay, I got these people, kept it to the end.
Yeah.
That's impressive because
Yeah.
it's like I didn't just get me to the end. I got these people to the end. I
Yeah.
carried them there. And that it also low key has a little it lowers the value of the people around you as well if you have that leadership role.
Yeah, yeah. Taking on the leadership role either goes one or two ways. Either you do really good, you control your tribe, you really are able to just dictate what happens, or you're looked at as a threat and go home right before the merge or at the merge.
Yeah. Or there's like, somewhere along the way you're just blindsided and then, it's like
Yeah, but even then,
stabbed in
I feel
the back.
like most leaders that make it to like final eight or something like that usually have at least four people, or like there's usually about four of them that are so tight, and he can kind of control them.
They can organize it, yeah,
Yeah,
because it
and it,
is
it
hard
becomes
to
so much easy for leaders to win final eight onwards.
exactly. And it takes someone that's really like wanting to like shake up the game or target like the people that are on the bottom, quote unquote, of that
Mhm.
alliance to
Yeah,
really shake things up and then kind of like get rid of a leader. It's hard. It's very,
yeah,
very hard.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that's why a leader is such a strong position to be
Yeah,
in.
yeah. I'd say if you ever went out there on Survivor, and this is just a tip for anyone who's playing the game, is after every vote, think who is the leader of the tribe.
Exactly.
Don't tell anyone. Don't go off and telling, hey, this person's a leader yet, but just in your own mind, be able to figure out who you think is the leader. Because if you can make sure that those people are the people you're targeting at certain points in the game, like those big flip votes and all those big kind of crucial moments, then you'll be able to not have that leader mentality take over your game at the merge.
Exactly. You know what to watch out for
Yeah,
because leaders are statistically speaking the most likely people to win.
exactly.
All right. And now for the third category, we have the most important one, in my opinion, gameplay. And I
Yes.
feel like, and there's like, and I feel like it's very adaptable with which way you can go with it too, because you can have a very good social game and be a leader, or you could have a very good social game as a follower
Yeah.
or just like unaffiliated and stuff like that. Or like you can be a really good villain that has a great social game. You
Yeah.
just love to hate and stuff like that. It's a very and that's what it comes down to because gameplay, especially in modern Survivor, be it social, strategic, um, physical, and we got or like just really good at finding idols. These
Mm.
things are important to like get to the end and your case at final tribal.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is the one that really dictates how people play the game. Those other ones were kind of like circumstances, like this is a byproduct of how people play the game. This is really the meat and potatoes
Exactly.
of people's Survivor repertoire.
Exactly. So at the very bottom of this list, we have Idol Beast, as in they just luck out when they find idols. I mean, this is suggested by.
Because there is one person in Survivor history who I feel did not play a good strategic game, did not play a good social game, did not play a good physical game, but won the game because he found a bunch of idols in a row. And we're talking obviously about Ben Driebergen.
Yeah, I mean, he found the idols, and like, yeah, he was a target. He was a little bit of an underdog in that regard, whereas like, well, you can't vote for me.
Yeah.
You guys don't have a nullifier.
I mean, this is going to be a new thing probably happening in Modern Survivor. I feel like there's going to be probably a few more people that do this. It's not a way you should ever go into the game. You should never plan to go into the game and hope you can find idol after idol after idol.
Because someone might find it before you.
Yeah, it's such a risky game to go in and think I can play just like that. And you know, imagine if you go into the merge and just keep playing idol after idol after idol, I feel like at some point production might just say no more idols. Like you don't know that. They might say that.
And also, just unless it's a super idol, which we have never seen played yet, unless it's a super idol, you have to play it at the right time.
Yeah.
And even so, sometimes it just leaves a bigger target on your back where, you survive one more night. And sometimes one more night is all you need to really flip the game. Yeah. However, that's like, it does put a bigger target on your back as well because you just played an idol.
Yeah. Now, I don't really blame Ben for playing the idols because obviously, you know, he goes home. Like, I don't blame him at all for all of that stuff. But we're talking purely from if you
relying on it.
Yes. If you were to go out there and you want to base your game off of a certain play style, you shouldn't base off of Ben's play style in Heroes versus Hustlers.
Exactly. And immunity. It's important, and it can help you get further, but it's not always as important as you think post-merge.
Yes.
Because at number 4, we have Challenge Beast. What? But you do the challenges to win so you don't get voted off and you're safe. Yeah, but that puts a target on your back, though. It can build a good resume for the end, but it puts a big target on your back because as soon as you lose, you're done.
Yeah, I was really interested when we did the tally for this. So Ryan and I each did our own list, and I was able to find 3 challenge beasts who won, and Ryan found 2 challenge beasts who won. Very small in comparison to the 40 different games of Survivor that have been played.
Exactly. I mean, it's, you know, like I said, it can help you make it further in the game. By definition, what immunity means, you know, makes you immune for that one tribal council. But if you're relying on it too much, you're lacking in 2 other things that will get you votes because there's no immunity at final tribal. And, you know, what really makes you win at the end is getting the votes. And it does look good on a resume, don't get me wrong. It's just not as
we've seen in Cook Islands, Ozzy just barely losing to Yule, and you know Ozzy played one of the best physical games Survivor had ever seen at that point, and Yule had played one of the best strategic games that we have ever seen at that point. So it really came down to the wire, but at the end, the advantage went to strategic.
Exactly, and then fast forward to Game Changers. You have, Brad Culpepper, who was winning them left and right near the end.
Yeah.
And then you have Sarah Lucina. And, who won? Sarah Lucina. Because her gameplay, her strategy got her, got her to that point. Yeah. And, Culpepper, especially being a big guy, he had to win those and he also had a leadership thing.
Yeah.
So that put a huge target.
Yeah, it was weird because he was a leader, but he was like on the bottom for so long. Like that entire merge, he was just on the bottom, but because he kept winning immunity, it didn't matter.
Yeah. And that's just a reason why it's not as important in the end. I mean, getting there is always nice, but we're talking about winning that juicy $1 million.
Yes. We're talking about the perfect way to mold a game. And,
Yeah.
if you obviously, if you're someone like Aaron Meredith from Island of the Idols, you're going to go out there and you're going to play the physical game. You're going to try to do that because that's what you're built for.
Yeah.
We're just saying statistically that hasn't panned out for the people who played that style.
Honestly, and this goes into our number 3, even if you're the best all around, it's still not enough sometimes.
Statistically, yeah. I mean, I will say this is more of the white unicorn of Survivor players.
Yeah.
There's definitely less of them, and that's the complete package. You're very social. You're very strategic. You're a challenge beast. You're basically everything that you want in a Survivor player.
When you're a triple threat, emphasis on threat. Being well-rounded. If you can hide some of them, that's very good. But if you're like very well known for being a triple threat, that puts a big target on your back. And then if you don't win, or if people decide you need to go, there's not always a whole lot you can do, even if you're one of the best.
Yeah. So for this, when I was doing my list, for challenge beast and complete package, my thing was they had to have won at least 3 immunities. Because I feel like if you win 3 immunities, you dominated the physical aspect, no matter how way you put it. And so surprisingly, I did find 8 people to fit this complete package. And I think the biggest one is Boston Rob, obviously.
Yes.
Like just looking purely at Redemption Island, nothing else. He dominates that game socially, strategically, physically, every aspect. He just destroys it.
Yeah, and also looks pretty good on a resume. It's risky. That's why it's kind of in the middle. But like hell, if it wasn't such a vengeful jury back then, he could have won All Stars. It wasn't that big of a difference in votes. Like just one thing could have like tipped in his favor.
Exactly.
And then you see people like Cochran. I feel like, he won. Yeah, he won a lot of challenges, but a social and strategic game where he had all 3. And that's why he got every single vote.
Yeah.
Because he was perfect. And then you let him get him to the end.
Yeah. It's I wouldn't say it's only this, but if you have a cast of people who aren't really strategically thinking, like they're not strategy heavy, it's definitely more easy for a complete package player to win. That's why I think a lot of them happen, in my opinion, in the earlier seasons, like in that kind of middle, like the teens and that kind of stuff. We get a lot of complete package players at that point.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, I think Chris Doherty, I think he's a complete package.
I think low-key, yeah. Especially
in Vanuatu. I know he fails that first challenge for his tribe, but he wins 3 immunities that season. He wins out.
Well, I mean, part of the great thing about Chris, and I know what I'm talking about because I've watched it and I'm not biased anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I watched it again and not be biased. But it's a thing about, his strategy goes back to the very, very early part of the game where it's like, I fucked up, but, we got to take out the threats now because, and this is a little strategy where until the tribe swap happens, technically it's a new game. So like voting out a big physical threat before a tribe swap, because pretty much every season has a tribe swap at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, like they're no longer in the pool for the tribe swap. So you're eliminating a threat that, could be on your opponent's team. Granted, not on your team, but you just eliminate them from the equation altogether. And that's what helped him win, was having that strategy. And then obviously the social game of like maneuvering, like being likable, being able to like build close bonds with people. And then, having the strategy of like who to take out when, and like
Yeah,
cutting cords when you
and
needed to.
he really still uses that kind of Amber style where he lets Twyla take the brunt of a lot of the negativity as well.
Yeah.
Like she gets a lot of hates in that final
Exactly.
tribal, and
Exactly.
he honestly could have gotten some of that because he was saying like, hey, maybe we should go for these people, and
He
Twyla said
broke
yes.
he broke his word, like
Yeah,
Eliza, Jenna,
yeah,
Sarge. These are all people that were like, I'm not sure I want to be your friend after this. And it's like,
yeah,
all right, you don't have to vote for me, but my
yeah,
friendship means a lot. And
yeah.
like just
It,
that social game, that strategic thing.
Yeah, I gotta say it made me so happy when Sarge voted for Chris because he
It
said he
was a
wasn't
nice
going
moment.
to. He said he wasn't going to
It
because
was a test. It
yeah,
was a
and it
test.
was like and Chris answered it perfectly.
Hmm.
And that I think it's one of the best tribal council performances of this like ever because he went in there with so much negativity and everyone left it basically almost everyone left it saying like, wow, Chris deserves the win.
Hmm. Yeah. So it does help when you have it, but I mean, like there are so many different factors, and I feel with modern, it can help being all three, but
Mhm.
it also puts a target.
Yeah.
But
I will say we only have a few more minutes left, so and we still have two more categories to go through.
alrighty, so next is at our number 2 spot is strategy.
Mhm.
You need you kind of need it in order to build your resume because that's what a lot of people are going to ask. What did you do in the game? Was
Mhm.
it was it like befriending these people? Was it using people as a meat shield? Was it making big power play moves? A
Yeah.
lot of people look at that.
Yeah. Really, this also is hugely on the edit because depending on how Survivor wants to perceive you, they're going to show you your strategy if you're talking about strategy. And
Yeah.
if and sometimes they don't show that side because they want to focus more on someone's social game or someone's challenge game or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So this is really for the people that really are kind of like the storytellers who are really able to like get across to the viewers how they want to play the game.
But to be fair, the more strategy you do, the more and the more you influence the game, the
Mhm.
more likely you're going to be picked up from it. So it
Yeah.
does help, playing the strategy, and that's why it was so important at that. It's so important in there. Not the most important thing, but
Mhm.
it
Eh,
was close.
this has the best chance out of all of them, in my opinion, of getting to the end is if you're
Mhm.
strategically thinking. But especially, and I think early Survivor is almost all social players who have won. There's a few strategic people who are kind of slip through the cracks early. But really that early game is like just a bunch of social players, and so statistically that influences it. And if you look at it more modern Survivor, I think there's more strategic players who are winning
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah. And as we've seen time and time again, you might have a good strategy, but if you're a dick,
Yeah.
or or if you're not well liked, you're not going to get votes.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, that's how you win, getting votes. And that's
Exactly.
why number 1 is social game.
Yes. Ultimately, you're not going to win the game if you're not social. Even the strategic and challenge beasts who win have some kind of social game.
Hmm.
Like if you have zero social game, you can't win the game. It's cut and dry.
Yeah, it's a when Survivor was made, it was a social experiment.
Experiments.
Social
Yeah.
or social. I don't know how it's coming
Yeah.
on your side. Whatever is the right reading way.
Yeah.
Social experiment. And and it's kind of like, and you see this in like job situations all around, which jobs, surviving, thriving, all that stuff.
Mhm.
Being likable sometimes is more important than being better than other candidates, because
Mhm.
all right, yeah, the other guy has more impressive resume, but I really like, or I really had a close bond with this person. Why not give them the million because I like them? Or even sharing like your backstory is a social game move because it's telling people your life, relating to them. And that's how you can like, either tug at the heartstrings or, look more human to someone else instead of some callous thing. It's like, look, I did this because I have a wife at home that's expecting.
Hmm.
Or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. So social, I like me personally, I like the strategic players. Like I like
yeah,
the people who are strategic and are trying to get through the game by their own means. But I still recognize that, most players that are going to win are going to have a social game. Um,
exactly. And that's
yeah,
why near the end there's such big threats
yeah. I mean
because
that
it's like,
that's why Michelle wins and Kill Wrong over Aubrey. Um, like the jury didn't really think Aubrey had much of a social game. They didn't like her. They didn't know like her story. They didn't see the edits. They didn't know what she was doing. They just saw her
yeah,
as this conniving person who just got them eliminated, like the female Cochrane.
hmm
Like Cochrane his first season wasn't liked. No one liked Cochrane his first season,
no,
except the fans, and that's what happened. The fans liked Aubrey, but the jury did not.
yeah. And that's where, because perception is a lot.
Mhm.
Perception goes through our everyday lives. Perception is used in advertising, it's
Yeah.
used in storytelling.
Yeah.
It's, how, whether or not we decide to get along with someone or
Yeah.
give them a chance. And
Yeah.
so social dynamics is how you can influence the perception of everything.
Yeah.
And
So
that's what can get you votes.
yeah, so I guess if we have to say one thing that really sums up this whole podcast is that it's not necessarily how you play, it's how people perceive you as playing.
Mhm.
Because we have perceived all these people who have played over these 40 seasons as these kind of players. Um,
Exactly.
Now, there's we don't know necessarily what happened out there on the island. They could, like, a hero could have been playing villainous, but we didn't see that because they thought it would be better TV to have the hero win. Um,
Exactly.
so
Narrative.
it's all about perception. And ultimately that is what you need to know going into the game of Survivor.
Yep. And so basically with everything, the best possible combination by statistic is
Mhm.
being a heroic leader with social skills.
Yes.
So if you feel like you're a leader, you feel like you're a good guy, and you're very friendly, go on Survivor. You might win. You have
Yeah.
a good shot.
Yeah. You statistically have a better chance than someone like me.
A little bit more than me. I feel like low key, I can play the hero thing. I mean,
Same.
Golden America, da 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 da. And but I don't think people will follow me because I'm young looking.
Mhm.
They're like, what does this kid know? He
Yeah.
looks like he just graduated high school.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you're definitely more of the Jack Nixing type from Island of the Idols, I'd say. Like you
yeah,
like if I had to choose like a type, that's probably
I
a
can
good
see
one.
that. I can definitely see that. Though I would try and make a name for myself.
Yeah. Hey,
I
he
can
made the
see,
jury.
yeah, I wonder if it was like a thing like, we really like you, so okay, you're gonna be on the jury.
Pretty sure that's what it was. Oh, he was
Uh,
supposed to be on the previous season, Edge of Extinction, and then he ended up just being their alternate. So I felt like
he was the one.
I feel like they felt bad that he would have been one vote short of the jury, so they were like, let's just give it to him.
Hey, I'm glad because he was super cool during that
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
But
Okay. Well, I
anyway,
think
guys, yeah,
that's the end of this episode of the Day After podcast.
that's how you win Survivor, guys. So go out there and get your game on, outwit, outplay at last,
Yeah.
uh, all that jazz.
Okay. See you guys next time.
Peace out.